Salutations. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, T. Carrie, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. So, if you are watching on the YouTubes, which I encourage, you'll see I've got an in-person guest with me today. And if you are listening and you can't see, I suggest you give this adorable face a shot at on your eyes. But, adorable little guest, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lucy LeBlanc. I'm 10 years old and I'm from Hawkinsville, Kentucky.
Lucy, what do you do for a living?
I make bracelets.
What is your company called?
It's called Brown Girl Beading.
All right. And how did you find yourself, here?
Well, I like to do crafty stuff.
Quite the artist. Quite the talented, not just quite the artist, but quite the talented artist. I remember the first time I went to you guys', not this house, but the house before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in the guest bathroom and I saw the art up there. I was like, oh, where you get this? Like Ross or like TJ Maxx? She was like, oh no, Lucy made that. I was like, get out of here. This little one? You had to be, I don't know, you were like 6, maybe. You were little, but they were good, like really good art. But so what is your thing in school? What is your, I don't want to say talent. What is the class that you enjoy the most?
I like science and I also enjoy reading.
Girl after my own heart. Those were my faves as well. So, how did you get to New York?
Well, like today, like here today? Or...
Well, yeah, how did you end up here?
So, we came to visit my grandfather. Also, our cousins live in PA, so we came to visit them. And we also came to visit you.
Right.
And
I'm important. I'm cool.
And we also are visiting my mom's other friends.
But you guys drove.
Yes, we drove.
So, road trip.
Yeah.
There are many different ways. How long is that drive? Like 9 hours? Or is it longer?
It's like 13.
Oh, yeah. That's a long drive.
14
That's
hours.
A long drive. I wouldn't do that in one shot.
Yeah, we stopped, obviously. We can't do it.
So there are different types of travel. What kinds of travel are you familiar with?
I know road trips,
mm-hmm.
planes,
mm-hmm.
there's backpacking.
Okay.
There's camping. I don't know what any other like forms of travel, but
I'm thinking cruising. We could take a cruise.
Yeah.
Train.
Oh, yeah.
You can do like short travel, like subway travel on the train, like if you're going to work kind of thing. Or you can do kind of more long distance travel. Mm-hmm. If you do like an Amtrak or you also have bus. You can do like a Greyhound to get out of state. You can do Greyhound and train to get cross country and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what kind of travel have you been involved? What kind of travels have you done before?
I went on a boat before. It wasn't necessarily a cruise, but we went to a destination. So,
okay. Was it like a day cruise? Like
it was a day cruise.
Okay.
There was also, we also went on a train one day. We went on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone road tripping. I think that's it. I don't know.
And you've flown before.
Yes, I like to fly.
So
I fly by myself.
This episode, I kind of wanted to have like a kid's perspective on travel because I'm an adult. And I'm an adult that didn't start traveling until I was an adult. I'd done little trips when I was a kid. Like I'd done plenty of road trips with my family. Like we've driven to, I think the furthest I've ever had to do in a road trip was Florida with my family, possibly.
You answered my first question.
Okay. I think the most I did fly as a kid. I'd gone to Disney World. No, we did I think we drove to Disney World when I went as a really young kid. But then I went again to Disney World when I was in high school. I flew to family reunions. I remember as a kid, we would go to Atlanta, and then we would take that smaller plane to Augusta because my family is from that general area.
Mm.
And those were pretty much it. Like, I'd gone to New Jersey from here, which isn't that far. That's like one of the next neighboring states over for us.
It's like an hour, 2 hours,
If
3
even.
hours, depending where you go.
Mm-hmm. What else had I done? I've still never been on a cruise. I've been on like Greyhound buses in college and traveling. I have never done a long distance train, but I wanted you here today with me so that I could kind of hear from a kid's perspective what you think about travel, what your goals in travel are, what your perceptions of people that are in other places are, and kind of, answer kid questions that kids would have, and also for other adults to kind of give them a sense of what children think about travel so that we are kind of in a better position to be receptive to kids when they have questions about travel or when they have concerns about travel. So please go ahead, and Lucy has so graciously prepared a few questions. So go ahead and ask the questions that you had about travel.
All right. I'm getting the thing. Okay. So, what was your favorite trip and the favorite part of your trip?
Favorite is such a strong word. Such a strong word.
It is.
Honestly, now that I've had the experience, I can say my favorite trip was probably to Vermont because I was with Justin. That was our first trip that we took. But that's because I'm a sentimental person.
Yeah.
But I would say my overall favorite trip just might be, it's either Colombia or Cuba. I think either Colombia or Cuba because of all the new people that I met. I went to incredible beaches and I felt really, really comfortable being Black. Like, I didn't feel like anyone...
or somebody would judge you.
Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like people were looking at me as if I didn't belong in certain spaces. I didn't feel as if people were questioning whether or not I was, able to afford my accommodations, or if I were able to, I didn't feel as if I was being judged simply by my presence. I felt very comfortable being myself the most in those areas, and I felt like I did not get stared at in uncomfortable ways. Like, people look at you because you're passing them on the street, or sometimes people are just looking at you because they think you're pretty, or someone says, "Oh, I really like her earrings," so they're looking at your earrings, or you remind them of someone that they know. So a lot of times, I don't really take people looking at me personal, but, sometimes when people that don't look like you or that may not necessarily be familiar with you being in their area look at you, you can tell your own story about why they're looking at you as opposed to really knowing why they're looking at you. So I would say that those two trips were my favorite because I felt very welcome. And I felt as if I blended in the most with the people from that area, as if I were a local. I felt much more like a local in those places. And I also just had really incredible experiences. I learned a lot on those trips. I learned a whole lot in Cuba. I did a lot of things for the first time when I was in Cuba. I did cliff diving.
That sounds fun.
Oh, it was. It was really scary, though.
Yeah,
really, really scary. And I learned a lot in that lesson because I can do scary things. I can do hard things, I don't have to necessarily hold on to my fear and let my fear stop me from doing things. I did a kind of difficult hike. Like, we hiked around. And what was weird about it is, I don't know, it wasn't weird, but I was not really prepared. And I did the hike like in a bikini. So it was kind of strange to be walking through the jungle in a bathing suit, because you know how if you watch a movie and you're like, nobody does that in a bathing suit. Nobody even hikes in shorts, and then exactly.
And then you do it, and then you end up like regretting it.
A little hypocritical, if you will. But we waded across the river, like we walked across the river, not like on the water, but
I
like
was
we
about to say.
walked through the river because the water never really got too high.
So you could like actually walk through it. It was just
That was
kind of like
really
shallow water.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was really fun. I'd seen a lot of non-GMO, like that. You know what that is, right? That's non-genetically modified organism, I think. I don't know what the O really stands for, but it's not like engineered. It's more so fresh or organic. And I'd seen a lot of those fruits for the first time. I didn't know oranges were actually green. Like when they grow, they're green. Yeah. I'd seen huge avocados. What else did we have? I want to say like I had the best either passion fruit or like it was a mango or something smoothie that they made like in the middle of nowhere on the side of the road. It was a stand.
Just a stand in the
It was like a mini business in the middle of nowhere, and they had the best fresh juices, and they made that. So stuff like that. Oh, I went snorkeling for the first time. I saw like a baby octopus. Aww. And I got to hold it. I had never been to a beach that didn't have sand before. This was a beach that was just rocks. So you had to just kind of make your way carefully over like the really big rocks and then like just jump into the water and swim around. If you wanted to get out, you had to climb back out the rocks.
Yeah, me and my dad, we did that before.
Ooh, nice.
It was kind of scary because the rocks were like really big. Like one of them was like half the size of this table.
Okay.
So it was really big and it was kind of scary.
And that's what you had to get that's what you used to get yourself in and out of the water?
Yeah, but then you could just like swim to shore.
Okay.
Where there was sand. So like at one point there was like just completely rocks and you had to walk on those to get to the water. But then there was like a cafe so you could like swim there.
Okay.
And then there was like a ladder to get up. So you didn't have to walk all the way over it. And it wasn't as like bad.
Pro tip. Water shoes.
Yeah.
I always travel with water shoes, even if I don't necessarily wear them at the beach I'm at. But that is the most uncomfortable part of discovering a new beach when it's rocky and then you get out to the shore and there's a bunch of broken seashells and it's pretty to look at, but it's not comfortable to walk in. But I think that those two places, Cuba in particular, is very much so a favorite trip because of all of the really new experiences that I was able to have and of how comfortable I was there.
So you want me to ask you the second question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Have you ever been backpacking? And if not, do you think you ever will backpack?
No. And yes. I have not been backpacking before, especially not in the traditional sense. When I think of backpacking, I think of someone that is doing an extended trip, right? Like someone that's going to be in an area or be in a country and explore a bunch of different cities over the course of at least 2 to 3 weeks kind of minimum. Unfortunately, at my job, I only really have vacation spans of a week at a time. So I'm currently unable to do multiple week-long trips. Also, I think now, don't hold me to it just yet, but I think I can get like, dang, I don't know, man, because I already have a pretty difficult time packing light, if you will, for a week. So now imagine trying to put it all in a backpack. Well, granted, they've got backpacks that are somewhat designed to be able to hold more or to,
Or like those backpacks that are like really, really small and then you can like make it big so like you can hold a bunch of stuff, but it looks small.
Yeah, I think I would need one of those big multi-liter bags where they're kind of you've seen the ones where they come up to like the back of your head, or the backpacks kind of go up a little bit higher and they got places for you to strap stuff on there and all that kind of jazz.
A guy had one of those at the airport and he was going to Mexico, so I guess he was gonna do a backpacking trip in Mexico. Because
it's also possible a lot of people just don't like to carry a lot of stuff. You just go with what you need. Honestly, that's what I prefer to do. I don't like waiting on checked luggage. I don't want to have to, especially if you have a connecting flight, because I really enjoy a good layover. I've been able to see a lot more of the world by making sure to choose an itinerary that allows me to make multiple stops. But that being said, I don't like waiting for, luggage. And I also just don't necessarily trust someone else will always, keep track of my stuff. I like to be responsible for my own things because I can ensure that I'm going to pay attention to where it is and I'm going to take as good care of it as I possibly can. Whereas someone else, they've got 5,000 people's bags they're dealing with in, any given work shift, if not more, So in all fairness, they can't really be concerned with whether or not, mine is rolling safely or if it falls on the side or whatever. So that being said, I am pretty decent, not great, at getting everything that I want to wear and everything that I'm going to need into a carry-on suitcase,
Yeah.
But
so that you don't have to put it in the luggage and then have it maybe getting lost and then your stuff being lost and then stuff that you need. Do you bring your your camera with you?
Well, yes and no. So I do not I also don't like being responsible for a lot of stuff. I don't bring this camera, the DSLR. I do, however, like bringing my GoPro. The GoPro is fun. But
it's smaller and you can take it around anywhere.
It's waterproof.
Yeah.
So I especially love having the GoPro that I can put in or bring in the water with me. If I want to I've gotten really good surf videos, learning how to surf. That was a really good time. And I felt comfortable with, it's designed to get wet. It's waterproof. You put it in a case, good to go. My phone, on the other hand, I don't care how many, manufacturers and people say, oh, it's okay up to a certain amount. A certain depth, and
it's still gonna get, something's gonna happen to it eventually.
I don't trust it. And I also don't want the ocean to take it from me. I don't want it to, fall, and I'm worried about saving a phone, and I should be worried about saving myself in a situation,
Yeah.
So I would much rather something that is a little bit more disposable to me. I feel like there's more safety attached to a cell phone, being able to get help, or to, I can put my tickets up and log into stuff. Cell phone I need. Right. If I lose my GoPro, I'll buy another one. Yeah. But I try not to bring a lot of stuff with me. But then I also don't like being at the mercy of wherever I end up and not having something that I may need. I've had it happen in Thailand before where my stomach was bothering me. And I had Pepto-Bismol and Tylenol and all that jazz, but I left it in my hotel room. Oh. But I was out in the street. So I had to go to a pharmacy and ask them, I don't feel well. Is there something for, upset stomach? And then she's trying to translate all these questions so which way is it coming from? Are you going to poop it out? Are you going to throw it up? What is going on? So I like to always have things in case of emergencies. Right. But, it takes up a lot of space in a lot of cases, depending on how far you go.
Depending on travel, every time we travel, we even have it now, but we always my mom always brings all her medicines. Even if she doesn't need them, she still brings them just in case.
Yep.
She brings Tylenol. She brings my nasal spray because sometimes when I sleep, I get congested. So that's why we always bring our medicines and stuff.
Your mom and I also just happen to think the same and agree on so many things. But question for you, what is your idea of backpacking? What does backpacking look like to you? I should have asked you that first.
Well, so I look at backpacking in a different perspective of some people and also adults. So some adults, they think that backpacking is you go on, sometimes they think that you go on a plane sometimes and you go to this exotic place. I think that backpacking, in my opinion, is going on kind of like a camping trip.
Okay.
So you go in the woods and you stay in the woods, you set up camp in the woods for a bit. You hunt different animals depending on the season. So you bring your own food with you as well. And I think that it's bringing a small backpack, not a small backpack, but those what's it called? like the high school backpacks as they call them, and they're like kind of bigger than backpacks, because like high schoolers and stuff, like they have more books. I think that you like get one of those, but one of those, and you put all your clothes in there and stuff like that. So that's what backpack is in my perspective.
Definitely should have asked you that first. Absolutely not then. That kind of backpacking I would never do. I am not interested in hunting or really providing my own food. Now, technically, I would like to know how to live off the land because zombie apocalypse. You never know, kid.
You never know.
You really don't, right? So I would love to know, this is safe to eat. This is not safe to eat. You boil this. Don't saute it to cook it or something. Those kinds of things I would want to know.
You can also, so there's like different guides. Like there's like my like wood guide or something like that. And it's like a guided, there's like a guided book. And then there's also a guided sheet of paper where it shows what's safe to eat, what to bring on a camping trip, what to bring while you backpack in different areas that you're going. So I think that that's pretty smart too, to get one of those.
I would agree with you. I think that that would be a smart idea. My interpretation of backpacking is more of a, I don't want to say terrestrial because both are on land, but more of an exploration of different cities and towns and different areas, but it's more so of a low maintenance approach. You'll stay at inexpensive accommodations. You are going for more of an extended period of time when you backpack, like I started with before, about 2-3 weeks, minimum in terms of the length of your trip. And you are able to spend a week in this location. You spend a month in this country, and you stay in, a couple of weeks here or a couple of nights in this area. But again, you don't spend too much on the accommodations, and accommodations are like where you stay, right? Yeah. So you might do hostels, or you might do house sitting, which is like when we stay at my grandma's house, that's like house sitting. When you stay at someone else's house while they're away. There are different websites, like, how you can go on Expedia and Priceline. Well, you can do different apps that are similar to those, and you can book what is a house sit, and people that are going out of town want someone to stay in their house, whether it's for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but you have to, you'll in turn be responsible for maintenance of the home, making sure the pets are okay sometimes, watering plants and stuff like that. But backpacking would include low-cost accommodations like that. And I think when someone backpacks, they are really trying to immerse themselves into the culture of the areas that they're visiting. They're not necessarily staying at resorts. You may do touristy things, of course. Yeah. But because you're there for a long time, you kind of want to get to know the people. You want to, live more so like a local as opposed to someone that is, there to holiday or vacation. So that kind of backpacking, my version of backpacking, I would do. I would absolutely love to spend, 6 months in every country.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. But you can't do that because, you're an adult, and until you retire from your job.
That's what I was going to ask. That's one of the questions I was going to ask you. So who do you think travels? What kind of people travel, and what kind of people do what kind of travel?
Well, some people, they travel for the food and the culture. There's a show called I Travel for Food or something like that.
Okay.
And they try different foods. Okay. There's some people who travel because they are influencers, which means YouTubers, podcasters like you, different people who maybe, I don't know how to explain all the influencers.
Yeah, no, you don't have to break down the influencers.
But there's people who just like to travel. There's people who travel for business. And yeah, so those are kind of just a few people that travel and stuff.
So do you think that old people travel, young people travel? What kind of adults travel? Like, do you have to be retired to travel? Do you have to have a job to travel? Do you have to make a lot of money to travel? Like, at what point in your life do you think you will be at what your or who you envision to be? When will you in your life be who you envision to be to do the type of travel that you want to do? Like, what kind of people do you see as travelers?
Well, I think that I will travel. I will try to travel at least at like not like a super young age, but like after I start graduating college and I can like drive myself around without like an adult with me. And I'm also planning on traveling, like going somewhere really nice and exotic when I retire from my job, whatever my job is, whenever I retire and I'm older and stuff. And I also think I might travel for, because my job that I really want, I have to travel for business. I would have to travel for business.
What kind of job do you really want?
I either want to be a singer or a engineer.
Ooh, what kind of engineer?
An engineer for NASA.
Ooh, come on, fancy. I like that one. Give me a discount for something. I don't know. What kind of things NASA get to do? I don't want to go. Would you want to go to the moon? Or like to outer space?
So yes and no. So there's two reasons why.
Okay.
So yes, because I really, really, really like space. Ever since I was very young, I had like these little stars and moons on my wall, and they would like glow up at night.
Oh, I remember those.
And when we moved, we forgot to take them off, so the people had to take them off. And I also want to not though, because I have a very large fear of like me being somewhere and something malfunctioning. So either it's a plane, a bridge, a rocket, a car, whatever. I very much have a very large fear of that. So if to say I went through training to go to the moon and then I end up not making it back, that's just kind of scary to think about. Fair.
That is a fair concern because rocket ships, I can understand that. But I think engineer is a very admirable career, and I absolutely 100% think that you can make that happen. I know that you can make that happen. So why would you need to retire before you can go to an exotic place?
Well, there's not necessarily a why. Okay, so like I don't have to retire before I go to an exotic place, because me and my mom, like, we might go to like Mexico in like 2-3 years, depending on my age and depending on how independent I am by myself. I would like to go to like an exotic place after I retire because and this is a very large because, and it's because I want to spend a little bit of time there. So you see, if I had a job and I'm an engineer or I'm a singer, I can't just go off tour, or I can't just go off my job for 5 weeks or something like that. Like, I obviously probably won't go for 5 weeks, but like if I do, I might go for like 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Did you ever consider that you could create a job and a life where you get to do the things you want?
I did. But
why limit yourself then? Why not be the best engineer so that when you go to a job and they say, oh my gosh, Miss Lucy, you are the best engineer this side of the Mississippi. It's the first thing that came to mind. We need you here with us. What are your requirements? I get 5 months off every year, and I want you to pay for me to travel. Make it happen.
True.
Yeah. You're 10. You have an entire life to build the kind of career that you want so that you can do all the things you want. You could absolutely be an engineer. What about a traveling engineer? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I guess it is, because my friend Caroline, her dad, he works on like cars and stuff, and he fixes dents, and he has to travel around the world. Like, he's traveled to Australia. He's gone to about every single state in the US. He's been to Japan, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. He's been to Guatemala.
So
he fixes cars around the world.
It's possible that Lucy can be a traveling engineer who sings, because Lucy has a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
You can absolutely build the life that you want. We are in so my parents didn't necessarily, I'm trying to figure the best way to explain it for you. Different generations have different, kind of. You said defectives?
No, perspectives.
Oh, yes, perspectives. Perspectives, yes. They have different perspectives because of what they're used to, what they believe to be true based on the lives that they've lived, right? And how they've been raised, and different ideals and mores and things and morals that have been passed down from generation to generation, right? So what was best for my grandparents may not have been best for my parents, as well as what may have been best for my parents may not have been best for me. But everybody always pours into their kids what they think is the best. They always do their best, and they generally do it from a place of love. People that love their kids are always going to raise their kids with as much love as they possibly can and as much guidance as they possibly can. But also, from generation to generation, we've seen that technology has always improved and it's always increased. So it gives the next generation more opportunity. And the way my parents grew up and the way my grandparents grew up, it was always okay to dream, right? You could always have big dreams. That's never been a cap on anybody's generation. Every generation is allowed to dream. But not every generation has necessarily, at least for Black folks, has had the opportunity
to achieve their goals.
Yes, they haven't always had the same opportunities or the same luxuries of freedom and access to, really chase those dreams as easily. Not to say that they didn't chase dreams or achieve dreams. It just was so much harder. They had a lot of different barriers in place. So a lot of times people will, advise or counsel someone based on what their life experience is in a loving way that doesn't always, level or equate to the access and the opportunity that the next generation has. So my parents came from a generation of access that their parents didn't have. And now you guys are a generation of access that we didn't have. You guys were born with phones, whereas we had to grow into phones. There was a time when cell phones weren't even a thing.
Yeah.
And then they were, and then they were accessible, and then now we have them in our hands. So you are absolutely in a generation where you can say, this is the job that I've studied for. This is my skill set. These are my talents. I want you to now provide for me the quality of life that I want and that I'm looking for in order to be an employee. You can do, I don't know much about engineering, but I'm pretty damn certain you can make whatever kind of engineering career that you want because of all the access that I have and all the availability I have to dream and to create the life that I want. I know that your generation has even more. So you just have to put in the work. It ain't going to be easy. Promise you that. Can you see up your nose? Can you see? No, I can see up your nose. You're going to have so much more access than me and your mom and, than our generation had. You just have to remember to put in the work. So if that's what you want to do, you want to be a traveling engineer, you absolutely go ahead and be a traveling engineer. You figure it out. But that means you got to be the best engineer, and you have to be able to, think yourself into the situations and environments that are going to be conducive to you achieving what it is that you want. Lucy gets to be everything Lucy wants to be. You always remember that, okay? And that's for all y'all out there. You always get to be what you want to be because you're always the author of your own life. You write your own story. This your world, girl. Okay, what's your next question?
Well, I have to say this is kind of off topic, but you know how you said that you don't like to wait for a long time at like airports to get your luggage. Well, my dad, he had to stand at the thing for 3 hours when he was traveling from Korea.
See?
3 hours.
That's what I'm talking about. They, I'm certain a lot of airlines and the employees, they do their best, on average. I'm pretty sure everyone does their best. You go to work and you do your job. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's not, sometimes work is really easy, but a lot of times things just happen. And sometimes someone's best isn't good enough. And it's not because they don't want to do their best, or it's not because they're not doing their best. It's, situations happen where mistakes happen. People are always going to people. Weather, technological issues, technology, and things go wrong. And when you are at the mercy of more moving parts, of having to, stop here, wait for this to happen. I'm waiting for them to, unload the plane. I'm waiting for them to now load the conveyor. I'm hoping that this conveyor works. If this conveyor doesn't work, then they got to take everything off and go someplace else. And things get lost in translation there. So that sucks. 3 hours is a long time to wait for anything, let alone, luggage.
But it did work out because he had a layover. He had 3 layovers that day, so his next layover wouldn't be until like 3 hours and 30 minutes. So he had 30 minutes to spare.
But that not knowing when your stuff is actually going to show up, and then waiting on it to actually be like there, that's stress.
That's stressful.
A lot of stress. Okay, next question.
All right. So, have you ever traveled with your dog?
So funny you ask that. Yes and no. So I've only done road trips. I've gone to see my brother. He's in Rhode Island. So that is a 3-hour trip.
It's not that far.
Give or take. Not at all. Little, Binksy. She's quite hyper. Yeah, quite the colorful little gem there. However, she doesn't do terrible in the car when she has your attention. If you can hold her, she's cool. She's not going to bother you.
But whenever you're driving, you're not paying attention to her, she's going to go crazy.
Yep, basically. She wants to be the same way she's in the house. She wants to be under you. She is a shadow. So that same affection that she needs to kind of settle her is what she's looking for in a car.
It's difficult.
If I'm going with someone else, like when we went to go visit my brother, we went with my parents. So I was able to stay in the back and hold her the whole trip. So it worked out. She was fine. And, when we stop at rest stops, I walk her and hope that she's going to poop. And this way we're not, wait in the car, not knowing if she's got to go. But I say it's funny you ask because she's older. Binksy is 13. And I am certain that she loves a good adventure, just like I do. So I really, really want to take her on a trip that is kind of designed for her to have fun and not as much just for me to have fun as like the person. Because she thinks she's a person. She has a shirt. So she's just like,
whatever. I'm a person now.
Yeah, I'm not a dog. Dog where? So I really want to take her on a trip so that she gets some activities and she gets some adventure. And I'm considering maybe just doing a weekend like upstate or something where I can bring her on hikes, and
something fun for her to do.
I think she'll get a kick out of that. But I would like to, do a little bit more investigating to make sure that I'm in safe areas. She is a small dog, so I wouldn't want like a hawk or a bird of prey to sweep down in a field and grab her and think she's like a possum or something.
Right.
So that's what I want to put a little thought into, just to be on the safe side, because I don't have hurt dog money.
Do you think you'll ever like take her to like the mountains or something like that? Like just for like a hike or something up the mountains or something like that?
Well, yes. So I do have a girlfriend that has taken her dog Jax on hikes with us. Mm-hmm. So we could easily start there. We can go, about an hour up, 2 hours up. It's not like upstate, but it's kind of upstate. There is really good hiking
just
in
somewhere
New York.
Where you can kind of get out of town, get a different view of scenery. Mm-hmm. But not necessarily like a trip.
Right. We can do a quick drive and hike with the dogs. That's something we've been talking about doing for a while now. We just actually have to do it. Her dog is my friend Tanya is more of an active person as it is. So she often brings her dogs on runs and jogs and stuff like that. I ain't running and jogging. So Binksy ain't running and jogging. But, I would like to bring her on a hike to see how she does walking in the woods with so much stimuli. There's so many things for her to pay attention to and to sniff and to smell. So I wonder if she'll be like an overload and just kind of like freeze up and not really do anything, or if she'll just
walk around, enjoy
herself. I'm curious. So we'll definitely give that a shot.
I have another question.
Go for it.
This is my last question. What got you into traveling and started a traveling podcast?
Let's see. What got me into traveling? I've always just been a curious person. I don't know when I was your age, I can say I probably didn't think about travel much at all.
Yeah.
It just didn't really look like, I didn't understand it to be something that I was able to do. I kind of always felt like traveling was for rich people. I thought traveling was for adults, like it was a big thing. It was travel, and travel was always resorts and luxury and
all that other stuff.
Yeah, you lounge out on floaties and, in the pool, or you go on like a backpacking trip for 6 weeks. And those were all things that I didn't think I had in my access. Like I didn't think I had that in my disposal because I expected that it costs so much money. Like how much money do you think it would cost to go to Mexico?
Depends on what area you're going to, where you're going to stay, and what you're going to do.
Oh, you on it. You good. So, okay, let's say I'm going to fly to Cancun. And I'm going to stay at a... well, you know what? No, let me actually use some place that I've been that I could say I vaguely remember what I spent. Let's say, okay, you've heard of Bali before, right? Mm-hmm. How much do you think it costs to go on a trip to Bali?
Maybe $400, $500.
And what's that for? Is that your flight? Is that your is that everything? Is that including food?
Well, how long did you stay?
I was in Bali. I think I was there like a week.
Where did you stay? Like what hotel?
I stayed at an Airbnb. I stayed in a house. I had the whole house to myself, and I had my own private pool. And the man that owned the house would come cook breakfast for me every morning.
So I think that would probably cost about $300, maybe $200.
For the week, or for every night, or for how is the 200? For
the whole week, because he cooked you food. You had your own private pool, and you had So did you like stay in the house like where they lived, or what, did you have like a separate little like place? Because when we went to an Airbnb in Florida, we had a separate place from them. So what did you kind of have? Like, were you in the place with him, or
no?
Were you in a separate place? Oh, okay. So I think it's like maybe $300, $400, kind of depending on what service you got.
Okay, so you're not too far off, but far off. So I think my flight may have cost me $400, $500, give or take. And I don't remember where, but I'm pretty sure I had a layover prior. So I was able to spend at least a day in another country.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I I either went before or after. Like I either had a layover before the trip to Indonesia where I spent a couple of days someplace else, or it was after. Don't really remember. But I know I didn't spend more than maybe like $600 on the flight. Pretty certain about that. Actually, let me see if I can find it in my emails. So I ended up spending about...
I just have some things to say.
Go ahead.
So, you know how you said that you thought that traveling was for adults?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you can travel at any age because I spent like 2-3 hours in a whole different state on my layover.
Mm-hmm.
By myself. I only had like flight attendants, and I've flown by myself multiple times, like 3 times. So, next month will be my 4th time because I'm gonna go see my dad in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be fun. So I have a little bit of travel that I get to do.
Here it is.
I don't think I have a layover though. So that's good.
That is. Let's see. Is this ticket airline confirmation? Oh, so I lied to you. I spent China Eastern Airlines. Yep. Okay, so yes, marginally lied to you. That was quite the expensive ticket. So I spent $859.97.
That's a lot of money.
But I got to visit China.
Lucky.
And Indonesia.
Lucky.
So I had a day layover in Shanghai. So I flew on Saturday to arrive on Sunday morning, really early Sunday morning in Shanghai. And then I spent the day there. So I arrived at like 5 a.m. And then at 6 p.m. I left Shanghai to go to Bali. And I was in Bali from Monday to Friday. So I had a week in Bali. I had a full 5 days in Bali. Well, about 4 days. I had a really early flight on the Friday. And I got in on very early on Monday, like midnight on Monday. And then I left Friday at like 1 a.m.
My teacher went on the Great Wall of China before.
Nice. That's what I really was hoping to do.
She walked it not the whole way because it's very long. Okay. But like I think she walked like halfway and then a little bit more.
That's a good trip. I want to do that, but I wasn't able to find a layover that would get me in that area of the country. China's huge, so
yeah, it is.
I ended up just doing Shanghai. Also, because what's cool about there is I didn't need to pay for a visa. You ever heard of a visa before? It's not like a credit card.
Not the visa. Credit card.
But when you visit different countries as a citizen of your country, when you visit someone else's country, a lot of times they want you to apply for kind of like it's kind of like letting the country know that you're there. And the country says, we understand that you're here, but we're going to say that you can only stay here for a certain amount of time. So you pay for different visas, you apply for different visas so that you can stay for different amounts of time.
But you didn't have to pay for that?
Nope. Because I stayed within a certain vicinity of Shanghai. And in that vicinity, I was allowed as an American citizen to visit those areas. And not have to necessarily apply or pay for a visa. So that worked out. But I did spend a pretty penny on that flight.
I bet. Yeah, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for me to be able to see 2 countries for that time. So let's say I spent $400 going to $450 going to where to go, China, and then like another $450 to go to Bali when you round trip, because that was my round trip price. That $900 was there and back. It wasn't one way. So I think for getting all the way on the other side of the world, that's a pretty decent price. Mm-hmm. But I spent that on the flight. I spent about $25, I think.
Is Bali
a night?
Is Bali in India?
It's in Indonesia. It's like Southeast Asia.
All right.
Airbnb. So the Airbnb,
that's a nice pool.
In total, from Monday to Friday, $190.22.
That's actually pretty cheap for an Airbnb that has all that service.
Look, oh yeah, you saw the pool. See, that's a nice pool.
Yeah, it's a nice pool.
I don't know if y'all can see it, but and that was for the whole week. I had the entire house to myself, so I spent the $150 on that. What did I say? $150 or $200? No, the $200 on that, and I spent the roughly $860. So I spent just about $1,000
on everything.
On everything, I got to the virtual other side of the world, and for a week.
To be honest, that's actually pretty cheap for that trip. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't have $1,000 to spend, but still, that's pretty cheap for a trip anyway.
When you think about it, when you think about all the things that you can do with $1,000, right? When you think about knowing that this is a number that gives me the opportunity to get to the other side of the world and experience meeting new friends from different countries, it allows me the opportunity to firsthand experience another culture, to see the foods, to see, the beautiful nature and the scenery they have here. Like, I love a good beach and I love a good mountain, and it's so enjoyable to be able to experience it in another country. And you can save $1,000. $1,000 is attainable. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily as easily attainable for everybody in the same amount of time. Like, it may take...
It depends on what position you are in your life.
Exactly. It may take you a year to save $1,000, but you don't have to spend...
It's possible.
Yes,
it's
that's
not
the
like
catch.
It
is possible. And what I like about, sharing the pricing and sharing the cost of stuff is that sometimes it takes the fake story out of it for you, if you will. Mm-hmm. When you think... I used to think that something like that trip would cost me like $5,000. And that's why I thought, like, I ain't got no $5,000.
I can't travel like
to just
that.
Spend something like, you know what I mean? Like, that to me was a luxury trip. I had my own pool. I went skinny dipping for the first time because it was just me. How cool was that? You know what I mean? I had my own pool. I had the guy make breakfast, and it was really nice. The food was actually good, too. I was walking distance to a really nice spa where I got a $7 massage every day. And that's another thing. A lot of places that you go to, the cost of living is so much less than where you are. Yeah. Like, when I visit you guys in Kentucky, things are so much cheaper. Gas is cheaper. Food is cheaper. Entertainment is cheaper.
It's also because Hopkinsville is just country.
Well, there's that. I'm not going to say
very
it's
small
not.
Town.
But the entire state of Kentucky is going to cost less than the state of New York.
Yes, because New York has more buildings. They have to pay off a lot more loans and stuff like that.
New York's just got a lot of stuff going on. The cost of living is ridiculous here.
It is. But, sometimes, depending on where you live.
Yes. Wherever you live, it's ridiculous. But the catch is, it's kind of similar to when you do international travel. Other countries don't always cost as much as things here. A bottle of water here might be $3 in certain areas, depending on the type of water you're buying, of course. But abroad, you might spend 50 cents on a bottle of water, Right. A beer here might be $7, but abroad, you spend $1 on a beer. A meal here, a really good, savory, decadent meal here might cost you $100, maybe $50, depending on where you go.
Right.
And abroad, you can get, a drink and dessert for $5 with your really savory meal. It really depends on where you go. But the point is that until you do some research and until you look into what your dream is or what your goal is, you don't really know whether or not something is accessible. Mm-hmm. All right, Luz. So are there any final questions you want to ask?
Are there any final questions you have to ask me?
What's your dream trip? What kind of trip do you really, really want to do?
So me and my mom are going to do this trip soon. I think we're actually doing it in fall. We are. For fall break. I think we're going to Hawaii, I'm pretty sure. And that's always been my dream trip. Yeah. To go to Hawaii. And my friend Presley, she said that there it's really nice, and the people that live there are very welcoming. Once you get off the plane, they have little what's it called? The little
The lei?
The lei. I can't think of words sometimes. And like they give you like a grass skirt and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they offer to drive you to your destination as well.
Okay. So that is your dream trip, yeah?
Yes, it is. I also really, really, really want to go to Mexico.
Okay.
And I also want to go to China. So those are like 3 of my dream trips. But I'm pretty sure we're going to go to Mexico when I get a little bit older. Mm-hmm. But we're going to Hawaii, I'm pretty sure, in the fall, which is going to be really exciting.
Okay, so another question for you. Do you see yourself traveling by yourself? Or do you see yourself traveling with friends? Like, do you see yourself traveling, like, with not your mom or with not your dad? I
see traveling with my friends and just by myself.
Okay.
I like to be very independent. Mm-hmm. I to be honest, sometimes I don't like asking for help.
Fair.
And stuff like that. Sometimes I just want to do things my own way.
Okay.
And
Same.
I don't want like people to like lecture me about things sometimes. So I see myself traveling with my friends, and I also see myself traveling by myself in the future when I get a little bit older and I can like drive myself around and stuff.
Okay.
Like maybe just like a little road trip to like, I don't know, a place that I haven't been, like Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a good time.
Or maybe like across from where I live now, which is in Kentucky. So like to maybe California.
Oh, that's far.
It is far.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna tell you something that my grandma told me about advice, and I hope that it blesses your soul. So, and it didn't really register when she said it, but I always remembered it. And then as I got older, it made more sense. So she used to always tell me that you don't have to take my advice, just listen. It can go in one ear, but just hold it inside, because you never know when you're going to need it. So you don't always have to take people's advice, right?
But still listen to their advice and make sure that you try to listen, because it might be useful.
There you go. And sometimes people give you bad advice. I've gotten terrible advice, girl. Terrible advice. However, the majority of people that are giving you advice are doing it from a place of concern, but also they're doing it a place from, this is their life experience and this is what they know and what they feel that they would do, or, they don't necessarily give you advice to hurt your feelings or to, discourage you from being the best that you could be. The average person is giving you advice just because they want you to stay safe and they care about you and they want you to be able to have good experiences and, a great lived life. However, sometimes they're giving you good advice that you're not ready to receive. And sometimes the message just doesn't really resonate because you haven't had, like sometimes if someone gives you like a piece of a puzzle, it's useless until you have the other pieces of the puzzle, until it's got something to connect to, until you have something to make it whole with. It's just a puzzle piece.
When my mom gives me advice, I have a very hard time understanding what she's trying to tell me, because I'm just not ready for that type of advice sometimes. And also, sometimes she just overdoes it and she talks about it too much.
No best friend slander. So what I will say is kind of like we were talking about yesterday. You were saying, I wish you guys would just get it. Like, why can't you be like kids? And it's just like, well, because we're not anymore. Sometimes it makes sense to you,
but it
doesn't make sense to us. And a lot of things make sense to us and you're clueless. But trust that people that have generally, the best person to take advice from is someone that's done it already.
Yeah.
In all fairness, if you've got experience, you're going to know something more than someone that doesn't have it. However, my experience doesn't always have to be your experience. Mm-hmm. And his experience doesn't always have to be her experience. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So although someone may give you advice, you are still the author of your own story. You write your own life. That's all you. But always listen to what people have to say, because you can learn something from anybody if you ask the right questions. Always hold on to that one. So you can learn something from anybody, from homeless people, from CEOs, from kitchen staffs, to, managers, from teachers, NASCAR drivers, engineers, police officers, teachers. You can learn something from everybody. You just got to ask the right questions. You just got to be open to interpretation, because also the stuff they tell you doesn't always have to be good advice for you. But 10 years from now, you might hold on to, you know what? They did say that bell peppers are going to do something weird in the sun. You ain't got no need for a bell pepper kind of recipe. You know what I mean? But you never know. Listen to it, and one day it might be useful. All right, Lucy. So, any final questions? Will that do it for you?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me as a guest, I mean.
This is the second time we've tried to do this. I had so much fun the first time, the last time you guys visited, and then I crashed the hard drive. So I'm so glad we got to do this again.
Yeah.
I would say, are there any suggestions that you have for other kids that are possibly going to be unaccompanied minors on travels? Because you've done that before, and we'll end off with you giving advice to kids about being on a flight by themselves, and then also maybe some advice you would give to some parents who have kids that are going to be on a flight by themselves, because that is you've got experience, you've done that before, so go for it.
All right, so kids who are listening, if they are, please do not be nervous about traveling by yourself. It's not that scary. You have a flight attendant behind you. A flight attendant checks on you, depending on your flight, every, 20 minutes, to an hour, depending on how long your flight is. Adults who have children, if you're thinking about getting your child a plane ticket, probably don't get them a layover. It can be a little stressful sometimes, especially when, if it was even stressful for me, and I've traveled by myself before. So, so kids, whenever you travel, bring something to do with you. This doesn't even have to go with just traveling on a plane, but there's stuff that you just can't do on the plane. You're gonna get bored, so bring something to do. Also, make sure that you, what's the word? I forgot the word.
What does it mean?
It's so hard to explain.
Well, remember, you're explaining it to kids, so just explain it how you would understand it.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
You were saying bring something to do.
Oh yeah. Also, you can ask the flight attendant for anything. Don't be shy to don't press the blue call button, because they will think something is wrong. But just, if you raise your hand like this, or you look at their name tag and you say, "Excuse me, Miss, Mr. whoever," they'll come to you, and they'll that's their job. They're supposed to help you. They're not just supposed to ignore you and be like, "Oh, this kid's raising their hand, whatever. I'm not gonna come over to them." But yeah, so just don't be afraid to ask, because I was scared to ask the first time. I don't know why, but I asked to use the restroom on my first flight. I had to use the restroom. I was like, "Can I use the restroom?" And now I feel like that was a little stupid of me, because why would I ask to use the restroom? Just go. Don't ask.
Well, at least let them know that you're going, so that they don't lose track of you. And then also they know to try to look out for, okay, there's Lucy's in here, or the kid is in here. I can tell other adults oh no, someone's in there,
I'm sitting. Wait, and I was also sitting with 2 other kids too. So
okay, nice.
On my flight to North Carolina in April, because I went for spring break week, and that was pretty fun.
But overall, don't be scared.
Yeah, just don't be scared to fly by yourself. There's flight attendants all over the plane. There's a flight attendant right in front of the door. Also, if the flight attendant is looking you up and down, do not be scared, okay? Because there is a reason for that. There's a good reason, because they're looking to see if you're eligible, if something happened and there's something wrong, to help like other people get out the plane. So if they're looking you up and down like that, they're not looking at you because they think that you're gonna do something wrong. They're just looking at you because they're seeing if you're eligible to help other people.
Interesting. I didn't consider that. And I would also say, as the adult here, pay attention. Like, always have like your head on a swivel. Notice, what's going on around you. Pay attention to your surroundings and to the people that are around you. You don't have to be afraid of everybody,
right?
But you want to know who's around you.
You want to keep your guard up. And also, if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, or a flight attendant, you can tell another flight attendant.
Yep.
And they can tell the person that, hey, you're making them uncomfortable. Please don't keep on doing what you're doing.
Right.
And
don't be afraid to stand up for yourself.
I sat with this nice lady, and she didn't make me feel uncomfortable or anything. Good. And the two kids I sat with, they didn't make me feel uncomfortable either. And all the flight attendants, they didn't make me feel uncomfortable. But if they did, I would have just asked politely if I could move to a different seat, or if I could move somewhere else where they would know that I moved. So, good. Yeah.
All right. So we'll wrap it up there. I encourage the adults to chat with the kids in your life. See where their heads are about travel. If you're here listening to the podcast, clearly you have some interest in travel, or you've got some experience in travel. Consider that the babies in your life might need to have a little bit of a tap on the shoulder so that they know that they don't have to wait until they're 30 to leave the country. That they know that the world is their oyster, and that as long as they put their mind to their goals, save their little coins, they could be out there traveling, right after high school. You don't have to wait till after college. You could travel in college. You can, you don't have to go far. Just think about where your money's going to take you, and also where your maturity is going to take you. Don't go to, Istanbul if you've never done your own load of laundry kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, get the basics in order and then go see the world. All right, guys. Thank you for being here, Lucy.
Thank you for having me as a guest. I very much appreciate it.
All righty. All right, guys, if you guys have any questions, if your kids have questions that you don't necessarily have answers to, send them my way. I'll do my best to answer them. And if I don't have the answers, I always know a person. I'm that person that knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a lady. So I can get those questions answered. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.